Hello all, Old Geek here, and up on my screen you see I have another issue of White Dwarf. Now this is issue number 7, this is from the summer of 1978, costing 60 pence, equivalent of $1.50. It's about 5-6 months ahead of where I am with the Dragon, because I believe the last one I looked at was February 78, but it's same sort of time. I mean, what's a few months between friends? Right, White Dwarf, the science fiction and fantasy games and miniatures magazine, issue number 7. Shall we take a look? Right, Dragon magazine has just improved its cover art with issue 13, but White Dwarf is still far ahead. This is weird, isn't it? This is just bonkers. Who knows what these creatures are? Who cares? The lair of the Demon Queen, Fiend Factory. So is this something to do with that scenario? Yeah. Bizarre. Bonkers. John Blanche, I believe. Think so? Right. We'll find out. We'll find out, won't we? Eye-catching cover all the same. Right, let's look at these, where these adverts are. This one's Nottingham. That's not too far for me. Wonder if the shop's still there. 15p for a miniature. Yeah, 12 pence for a minute. Oh. Hinchcliffe Models. Meltham. Huddersfield. Where ladies go to get their Huddersfield. Sorry. Huddersfield's up. It's up north. It's up near Yorkshire way. If I want to be on T side, I like to look to see where these places are. You see, lots of adverts. This is a bit disappointing already. Too many adverts. 4 pages so far. Don't pack your magazine out with adverts. Pack it with content. Make people want to buy it due to the content. Oh, right, here we go. But what page are we on so far? Is this page 5 or 6 for the first proper content? Yes, the cover is John Blanche. Thought so. So, 12 months ago, we were happy and proud to announce the publication of the first issue of White Dwarf. So White Dwarf is now 12 months old. Its first birthday. Now, thanks to your support, we're able to give this issue a full colour cover. Now, full colour isn't always a step forward because White Dwarf's covers have been very good in monochrome. But if they've got an artist like John Blanche doing it, then that's a great start. That is ahead of the curve. But I like the monochrome covers they've had so far. They've been very, very good. Increasing the number of pages this issue. Right. Although this is caused by additional advertising. Fair enough. If you've gone from 26 pages, was it? 24, 26 pages up to 32 maybe? I haven't counted this one yet. And all the additional pages are filled with adverts. That's not too much of a problem. It's when you start having a higher percentage of it. Keep it at 26 pages and have more adverts, then it's a problem. But as long as there's enough content in there, and White Dwarf hasn't been too short on content, so good. But just working out, yeah, of course, there is a higher percentage of adverts. Say 10 pages of adverts in 32 versus 4 pages of adverts in 26. That's a shift up in percentage, but I don't have a problem with the increased page count, even if it's full of adverts, to be honest. Makes you feel like you're getting more for your money when you hold it in your hand and it's a bit thicker. Right, I'll stop wobbling on. That's just my nonsense. Right, let's have a look, see what we've got. We've got Feudal Economics in CNS. Chivalry and Sorcery? Don't know. News, what's happening in the sci-fi fantasy world. Fiend Factory, yeah, looking forward to see that one. Letters, chest. Letters, then treasure chest, mixing the two up there. A miscellany of D&D editions. Molten Magic, that's figures, open box, games review. So these are regulars. Calgar, Sword and Sorcery Adventure, written and drawn by David Lloyd. The Lair of the Demon Queen, a mini dungeon complex by Don Turnbull. Thoughts on the proliferation of magic items in D&D. Advice on the use of magic items by Gary Gygax. Okay. Well, let's see. Let's see how it goes. Feudal economics in chivalry and sorcery. When we wrote Chivalry and Sorcery, the full scope of feudal economics in our campaign was only beginning to make itself felt. No sooner had the manuscript gone to press than we found ourselves innovating and proceeding far beyond the rules as we first conceived them. Right. If you're trying to emulate or provide verisimilitude, and your game environment is meant to be medieval Europe, and your main aim is for that authenticity to be there, you need to get the economics right. Taxes, subsistence, travelling merchants, the impact on the economy of an influx of something or other. I mean, food is going to be more expensive in January, February than it's going to be in August or September. These sort of things need to be put in there. So it's not a problem to have this sort of article in there for a system that is designed to be based on medieval Europe. There are DMs who do bring this sort of thing into D&D. I tend to hand wave that sort of thing away a little bit. I'm not overly fussed unless the characters go bonkers and order 500 oil flasks. Then I'm going to put the price of oil up. But if they're just simply restocking for a trip to the dungeon, or bringing back some gold and jewels, I'm not the sort of DM who's gonna mess about really there. Anyway, let's move along. Well, it's about clothing and what you get when you start out based on your position in society. That was sort of brought in 1985 into Unearthed Arcana for the Cavalier class. I like that. I quite like that. I mean, it was integral to the Cavalier. I don't have a problem with it in that sense. The Fiend Factory. Do we have any more Monster Marks? Is he going to bang on about Monster Mark again? Shall we see? Necrophidius. I like Necrophidiuses. Necrophidii? Necrophidiuses? What's the plural? Necrophidia could even be the plural. I think they were great. There it is. There's the monster mark. Turnbull. Listen to me. Listen to the old geek. I know I was 6 years old when you were doing this. But I know it's 45 years later. But I'm looking forward to the day when in a White Dwarf magazine you admit that Monster Mark is a pain in the ass. Anyway, Necrophidius. The Rover, inspired by the amazing TV series The Prisoner, filmed in Wales, Portmeirion. They're true wanderers, often used by high-level characters as guardians. Okay. 7-foot-high balloons and travel by bouncing. I've seen episodes of The Prisoner. I'm not going to put living balloons in a D&D game. I'm sorry, they're a silly monster. The Necrophidius, on the other hand, a skeletal snake doing its dance of death. I do like those. I have used those in various versions of D&D. Living wall. Wasn't there something similar in Fiend Folio that just had its name changed? I know there was something that looked like a wall that would then attack you. Oh, what was it called? Maybe this was the inspiration for something that did make it into the Fiend Folio. The Vault certainly did. Remember those from the Fiend Folio? Didn't seem used in adventures. I think there might have been one in the Sentinel or the Gauntlet. Oh, there's building going on outside. I do apologise if you hear any digging. Gluey. I remember there was a monster called the Adira. Was that what Gluey became? Because Gluey is a really, really dumb name. The Adira is much better. Squonk. 3 foot high, vole-like creature covered in warts and blemishes. It's also a device in vaping, a squonk. But I'm sure you didn't really want to know that. Eye Killer. Yeah. I remember those appearing there. I'm pretty sure. Were they in the Fiend Folio as well? The Eye Killer? I think there was something like that. I've forgotten so much. What's this on the right hand side of the page? A Withra. An incompetent wraith. It's a comedy creature. And I like the idea that undead are somewhat serious and frightening. So I'm not interested in using a Withra. I'm sorry. If you're running a comedy adventure, maybe. But no. No. Witherweed. That made it into the Fiend Folio. It's always good to have dungeon denizens that look at first glance to be somewhat harmless. And of course, the first time the party encounter a grey ooze or a green slime or a shrieker or something like that, they might fall for it. But not the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time. So having something new like a witherweed, yeah, why not? Vampire bushes as well. Remember those? Vampire roses, I think they were. Yeah, I like things like that. Letters page. We have Dr. J.A. Gilmore writing about something, an article about monsters mild and malign. Albi Fiore did some artwork for the Fiend Folio. Remember that? Talking about an article regarding armor class in White Dwarf 6. Yes, okay. We have one here from a certain E. Gary Gygax of Lake Geneva, USA. Right, let's read this. Dear White Dwarf, I read the article Combat and Armor Class by Roger Musson with considerable dismay. It appears that the good gentleman does not know what D&D and is all about. Typo. Dungeons & Dragons is a fantasy game, of course, and this most reasonably indicates that statements regarding realism in a game must go out of the window. Quite frankly, there is no game with any true realism in it. Well, that's right. Or it be real and not a game. Folks seeking realism should go on and participate in whatever the game is based on, if possible. If they are looking for realism in war games, they should enlist in the military service. It got worse thereafter. D&D is a heroic fantasy game. Who can slit Conan's throat at a blow? An assassin can. The examples are too numerous to mention, but the point is that the game is aimed at allowing participants to create a heroic character who is not subject to some fluke. Getting killed requires a lot of misplay in most cases. How does the fighter escape the dragon's breath? The same way other superheroes do, bending a link of chain or slipping into an unnoticed crevasse in the rock he was chained to or whatever. The same way all of the larger-than-life sword and sorcery heroes manage to avoid certain death. In summation, most players find the game of seeking and gaining, with ensuing increase in character capability, is the thing. Combat at its best is something to be done quickly so as to get on with the fun, and it must not be loaded so as to give the players no chance to escape it if it is going against them, in capital letters. Neither, of course, must it be a walkover, and Conan is usually in a shirt of mail in battle. Enough said. Slightly pompous tone for Mr. Gygax, but I don't think he's wrong. There are systems that are designed to be gritty and dirty. I mean, your rollmaster tables, merp tables, where you're always at risk of an instant death. And I do remember that Combat and Armor Class article by Roger Musson, and I remember not particularly liking it. At low levels, though, I wouldn't say D&D is particularly heroic. You've got to play smart. You've got to play clever, because if you've got 5 or 6 hit points, and a single blow from a sword has a decent percentage chance of killing you outright. So that instant death thing, yes, at high levels, there are still times when you can die immediately. Saving throws, for example. Saving throws. So I fall in the middle here. Yes, clever play should be able to negate instant death. I think that's right. So I'm leaning slightly more towards what Gygax is saying, but Gygax's tone is a little high and mighty, shall we say. Oh, I have another one from an Ian War in Tyne and Weir. I have a complaint to make. I feel I must pass comment on the setting up of so-called authorities in D&D. I must say that I deplore Lou Pulsifer's letter in White Dwarf 6. He may have GM'd D&D in every state of America, every county in England, on the moon, and on Mars for all the good it has done him. He quotes these instances in an attempt to prove his authority in matters regarding D&D. You will hear and read of similar cases of unproven authority in most letter columns of most newspapers. Expressions such as a ratepayer for over 30 years, as every right-thinking citizen will agree, it is patently obvious that, are no more certificates of authority than Lou's claim. Okay. I can't remember which article that was. Oh, it was a letter in the letters page. We still have people who claim they are authorities on D&D and who say this is the right way and so on. And Ian, I agree with you. I agree with you. And what I say to the people who are authoritarian is, there we go. We all play the right way in our own way. There is no right way and no wrong way. Unless you're at a tournament. I mean, tournament has to be played by certain rules. But the right way is what works for you. I would say there is a way of playing that is more true to the rules. And true to the spirit of the game. That's correct. But just have fun. Just have fun. If you hack and change something too much, though, there is a point where it ceases to be the original game. I don't disagree with that idea. But to be utterly dogmatic about this is the true way. No. You can veer too far away, but tweak, adapt. Do what you want. Treasure chest. Carrying capacities. Okay. If you do hear beeping and stuff from outside, our street has been peaceful all day. And as soon as I come to record this video, somebody decides to do with concrete in their back garden. Fantasy role-playing games are often a bit vague in their rules and encumbrance. Well, they're getting more vague as time goes on because people seem to get very lazy about checking it. The thing that gets me with encumbrance like this is I'm the sort of person who does like to track it. But as a DM, I'm not overly fussy on my players. Encumbrance only becomes an issue for me when the players take the mickey, when it becomes blatantly obvious that they are utterly overladen. You know when they say, well, let's take those 3 suits of plate mail back to town and sell them. Okay, how are you carrying them? You find a chest with 2,000 gold pieces in. Yeah, we'll put in our backpacks. Will you now? It can be used as an opportunity to create a puzzle, create something to engage the characters in the logistics of getting loot out of the dungeon, and just sort of hand waving it away. I don't like that, but equally, whereas I don't mind counting every gold piece and everything, there are a lot of players don't want to do that, and I can understand why. So I think you've got to find that fine line. Anyway, what I do like here is it is a very, very extensive list of equipment, though. There are some things here that don't appear on early D&D lists. Yeah. So, fair play for having a really extensive list, but I don't need the added encumbrance stuff. The Asprey system. Right, let's have a look at this. Calculating part 3. Calculating the experience points awarded to a character or party for not finding a non-magical treasure is straightforward enough, as the treasure has a known value in gold pieces. Right, what I do remember, this is a way of calculating XP awards for finding magic items. We had that in the AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide, and I like it. It gives a choice. I mean, they get more XP if they sell it for gold, but if they use it, they get less XP, but they get the use of it. And yeah, I think it's all good to me. I like having XP for loot. Let's move on then. Okay, next page. Pictures of miniatures. Labelled A1, A2, B1. It's not an advert, is it? No? Molten Magic. Right. So what's this? Is it an advert of some sort? Or is it just a list of new miniatures? Any reviews of them? Any descriptions of them? Other than just names? Unhooded monk with pack mule. Abbot with large cross. Yeah, okay, yeah. It describes it well. What's B1? Let's see what B1 is. Stone giant hurling stone. Yeah, doesn't look it's not a particularly impressive looking stone giant, is it? Hurling a stone, which is good, but the features look a bit meh. What's F2? Large hill troll. Okay, yeah, fine. Angel of Death looks pretty cool. Angel of Death, yes. So let's move on. They're all right. They're getting better, aren't they? They're getting better. Okay, the open box. This is the review section. The Warlord game. It's an American version of Warlord. Different game to the Warlord game, the British version game that was reviewed in White Dwarf 1. Okay, popular name, isn't it? Warlord. I had a played a game years ago, a PC game called Warlords 2 it was. And as you loaded up it went, "Greetings, Warlord." So it's a strategy game. What does Don Turnbull think of it? Take it with a pinch of salt, because he likes Monster Mark. Quite an attractive game. Could be fun with 4 players or more, rather dull with 2. The roleplay element is unlikely to be any more successful than it is, say, in Diplomacy. But that's a popular enough game after all. Well, Diplomacy is fantastic, that's why. it's a great game. Simple, good. The Thieves of Fortress Badabaskor from Judges Guild. I've seen this on eBay a few times. I didn't know a lot about it. I could have picked it up for about £3 or £4 a few years ago. It's gone up in price now. Don Turnbull really likes it. Okay, fair enough. Bifrost. Yes, it's Bifrost. It's not Bifrost. Bifrost Bridge. It's not. Bifrost is the pronunciation. Don't know. By Skytrex, another set of rules for fantasy role-playing game. British one. Okay. Very cheap, £2.95. Oh, they're running down the production in it. So it looks like, just skim reading it, promising start, but poorly edited by the looks of things. A little incomplete. Fair enough. Reminds me of some of the D&D modules that came out in the late 80s. Lords and Wizards. Boy, it looks like a board game. What do they think of it? Scores here, 6 out of 10. Good points. Setting, detail and design. Bad points. Lack of balance, lack of counters, lack of care. Slap happy. Right, okay, fair enough. The Sorcerer's Cave. Ian Livingstone reckons it's too simple overall. And given that Ian Livingstone was a author of the Fighting Fantasy books, which were very simple, is this even simpler? Cosmic Encounter from Eon Products, $7.25. It's going to be sci-fi, isn't it? It's going to be sci-fi, which doesn't interest me. Looks like a board game with various expansion kits and stuff. But they like it. They like it. They just say the bad point is limited winning objective. Well, I mean, chess has effectively one winning objective. Get your opponent's king. But I suppose if there's only really one or two ways of doing it, yeah. But they reckon it's a good game. Okay. Calgar. No idea what the story's like, but the artwork's pretty good. I didn't read the first edition, first part, the previous. Lair of the Demon Queen, a difficult but rewarding section of the Greenlands dungeon by Don Turnbull. Okay, it's a one-page dungeon. It's got Nagas in it. Okay. Oh, very small then. Very small, just 2 pages. Okay. One thing people do like about White Dwarf is the amount of adventures they ended up putting in the pages. And this looks like it's just one encounter, effectively. One sort of large encounter, little dungeon, not a dungeon complex. But I don't know if it's any good. There's 2 pages here, and then continued on page 23. So there's more here. Oh, there. Oh, there's a little bit there. Annoying little few more paragraphs. Okay. 2 and a bit page dungeon. Right. This bit here, though. Thoughts on the proliferation of magic items in D&D by Gary Gygax. He's not just writing moaning letters to them, but he's writing his own article for White Dwarf. In a recent letter from the worthy proprietors of Games Workshop, I was generously invited to write an article for White Dwarf. Now, once upon a time, some of my favourite childhood words, it was possible for me to author a considerable number of articles and stories for various and sundry game hobby magazines. As my involvement in the business of gaming has increased, however, my free time has magically decreased. If you used fewer words, it would take you less time to write this. I find that there's almost no time for such pursuits spelt incorrectly, as playing games or writing for enjoyment and recreation. Those hobbyists who think otherwise be advised that running a game company might might not be quite what you imagine. I run a shop, and it's a pain in the backside. At this time, I'm in the process of drafting the third Dungeon Master's book of the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons series, and doing some playing aid materials for eventual publication by TSR. Oh, City of Greyhawk. Right, okay. So, he's just saying, I haven't got much time to do this sort of article, because this is all what I'm doing, yada, 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 yada. But then he goes on to continue it anyway. So he's talking about use of magic items in the game, if there's too many or too few, and how to balance them out. I am in the camp of, I like to put magic rewards, but I don't mind taking them away. And I often put them in the hands of dangerous individuals or in hard to find locations. So often people in my OSE game will come out of the dungeon thinking they've not found very much. Well, they haven't found very much because they haven't found the right bits. But I've always thought I'm a little OTT with magic items. I don't know. I do occasionally regret putting something in that's a little too potent. But you've got to find rewards, haven't you? You've got to find rewards. But I don't mind taking items away from characters. That's what rust monsters are for. And item saving throws. And charges. Items should have charges. They shouldn't recover all their charges at dawn. That's silly. Okay. Games Workshop hired Rent a Crowd for the opening of its new premises at 1 Darling Road, Hammersmith. Oh, they sold one copy of Empire of the Petal Throne, which sold for £1 to a very patient Phil Mannion, who queued outside for 17 hours. There were 6 box D&D sets to be had at 50p each. So, Oliver MacDonald, David Coast, John Pope, Jonathan Barrett, Stephen Nigel and Peter Coles. Have you still got those box sets? If any of you are still into D&D and you happen to see this video, just comment below and let me know, because I'd be interested to know 50p for a box set and you have to queue there for 7 hours for those. It's well worth it. Well worth it. Right. Questionnaire. Last issue mention was briefly made of a questionnaire regarding the content of White Dwarf. As it was not practical to have this printed separately, would you please use the form below, or copy or photocopy, and return it to White Dwarf, 1 Darling Road, Hammersmith. Give marks out of 10 for the following regular features. The Fiend Factory. I'm going to give it 7 out of 10 at the moment because it insists on having the monster mark in there, and there's a few silly monsters. I'd think drop monster mark, instantly go up to 8 out of 10. Treasure chest. Yeah, same. Open box, yeah, okay. Molten magic. I didn't really see the point of it. There's no description of the miniatures in there, so that gets a 5. And Calgar looks nice. Haven't read it. So don't know. Answer yes or no to the following questions. Would you like a regular published mini dungeon? Yes. Would you like more articles on science fiction role-playing games? No. Would you like more articles on science fiction and fantasy board games? Yes. Would you like articles on science fiction fantasy tabletop games? Yes. Would you like to read science fiction fantasy fiction? Not particularly. Do you find the advertisements useful? Well, certainly not now, because most of the places will have closed down, but probably at the time. I think White Dwarf could be improved by thinking 10 years ahead of time and not going down the all Warhammer route. Anyway, classifieds. Dum-de-dum. Let's see what we've got here. D&D Society. Oh, a job opportunity at Games Workshop. An enthusiastic person aged 20 or over to become a trainee manager administrator for their new shop and offices. Wonder who applied for that. If you applied for that job, let me know in the comments below. Help, clubs, contacts, or players wanted. One for Germany there. Deutschland. One for Michigan. Oh, that's an advert for Origins. Gen Con advert. Stoke-on-Trent, Dunstable, London, West Sussex. No Birmingham ones. Oh, there's a Wargame weekend in Belgium. Keep on going. Keep on going. Lots more adverts, extra adverts, but we know there's extra pages in this issue, so that's not a problem. Andy Clamp. Suitable for holding. Oh, it's for helping to paint figures. Okay. Okay, did you buy one? Just looking for what other purposes it could be used for. Dirty Mind. Tally-Ho Games. Oh, that's a great name for a company. Tally-Ho. Games Workshop. Monster manuals in stock, £6.95. It was about $2 to the pound this time. That feels expensive. The Sorcerer's Cave. Enter your peril, few return. A board game where you really will be in the unknown. Okay. Could do with better artwork on the advert because that's looks a bit homemade. Hasn't that been reviewed further up? I think it has. I think it was reviewed. I think they gave it a half decent review. Anyway, that ends this edition of White Dwarf magazine. This was a very, very irritating one to read through because there were builders in 2 doors up my road and they kept starting and stopping a truck and starting and stopping a cement pump and a mixer and all that sort of stuff. So if it seems disjointed, I apologise. I have a 2-hour window on a Monday to record this. And that same 2-hour time, they were outside for most of it. I like the cover. I do like the cover. I mean, yeah, I like the monochrome ones before, but I like the way they've gone with the cover. They're way ahead of their equivalent in America at this point. A lot of extra adverts. It's nice to see the extra page count, and I'm glad that obviously they need adverts to survive. And if they're going to add more adverts, add extra pages. Don't take away articles. So that's fine. Let's go to the contents page. Feudal economics useful depending on your game style. Fiend Factory, bit of a mixed bag. Letters, Gygax having a junter, that's good to see. Treasure chest, I don't mind treasure chest. I quite like it as an article. It gives you ideas. Molten Magic seemed pointless. Reviews are always good. Calgar, no, not I've got no urge to read it. Lair of the Demon Queen, good to see an adventure come in, even if it was just a couple of rooms. But yeah, it was all right. It wasn't anything special, I think, this issue. There's a few ideas in there, bits of food for thought. But of course, I've just read through two Dragon magazines. Dragon 12 was really, really good. Dragon 13 was meh. And I think this issue of White Dwarf is a bit meh, to be honest. Anyway, I've been the Old Geek. Have your say below on what you think of me and what I've said. Tell me I'm a lunatic. But make sure you like and subscribe and join the Discord channel for some games. I'll be seeing you soon. Ta-da! Bloody typical. Recording a video and a concrete truck turns up outside. It's been quiet all day. force it upon them. And they've just started a lorry outside. So let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move on. We have